Hi, welcome to today's PD. This is meant to be an opportunity to provide you the time and space to reflect on quarter one and prepare for quarter two in order to best support student learning. So I'm excited for the opportunity ahead. This is the master agenda that I sent you earlier today. You'll want to click on the Q1 reflection and Q2 pre-planning link that will take you to the specific agenda for this portion of PD, and then we're going to make our way to the quarter one reflection and quarter two planning checklist that you've seen earlier today in PD. And this document is outlining all of the tasks that we want you to engage in to reflect on quarter one as we begin to also think about the beginning of quarter two. So you've had an opportunity to look through this already. What I'm going to do for the next 10 minutes or so is walk us through the interim assessment data analysis process and orient you to the template and the Illuminate reports. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on the complete the data analysis link. That is going to take me to this analysis sheet, which is view only. So I'm going to want to make a copy of that. And so you'll want to do the same. And then you'll also want to share this document with your coach so that they can see what you're thinking about as you wrap up the quarter. So I'm going to share this with my coach. All right, once you've done that, I want to orient you to what this analysis sheet contains. It starts with some overview data, looking at overall mastery, looking at subgroup mastery, looking at question analysis, and then ending up with looking at individual students. So you're going to need to be able to access your data in Illuminate to do this. So I'm going to go back to my end of quarter checklist. I'm going to click on Illuminate link, and that's going to take me to my Illuminate interface, which might look slightly different than yours, but I'm just going to move over to this bar on the left where it says assessments, and then I'm going to click view assessments. And that's going to pull up for me a list of a bunch of different assessments. You will probably just have your own, but I'm going to spend the next few minutes looking at this assessment. So you'll want to pull up yours, and it should look something like this, where it has an overview tab that looks at overall student performance, and then it has standard analysis, and then question analysis, and then subgroup data on this overview tab. So when I make my way back to this analysis sheet, I want to start off by just looking at the overview tab right here and looking at overall mastery, average percent correct, number of students, percent not mastered, percent mastered. And then I'm going to ask myself throughout this analysis sheet which strategies, lessons, or other aspects of my practice contributed to these learning results. So I want to do some high-level reflection on this question. I'm then going to move on to doing some subgroup analysis. So which subgroups are scoring above the course average and which subgroups are scoring below the course average. So I'll go back to this overview tab up here, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom where I get some high-level subgroup achievement data. I think the best way to use this data is to look at the average percent correct, which is listed here for each of the subgroups, and I can see how each subgroup performed, and that is in relation to the average percent correct overall, which in this case is 73.3%. And then I can see how each subgroup performed relative to the course average. So if I go back to the analysis sheet, from that I can identify subgroups performing above the course average, subgroups scoring below the course average. And then similar to the questions above, which strategies, lessons, or other aspects of your practice contributed to these results, and then starting to think forward, what implication does this data have on your future planning? So that is the data that I'm going to pull from the Overview tab. Next, I'm going to go to the Response Frequency Report so that I can do some item analysis on the questions with the highest student mastery and then the questions with the lowest student mastery. So again, I'm going to go back to Illuminate and go to the Response Frequency Report. And I'm going to get there by going to the top tabs here and clicking on Reports. And then I'm going to scroll down here to Response Frequency and click on that link. And that's going to pull up a different data report. For now, I'm going to ignore these different filters and I'm going to look at the overall responses to the questions. These questions are in order of percent correct, percent miss. So I can see that question 17 was the lowest performing question and question 12 was the highest performing question. So I want to think about the 3 lowest performing questions and the 3 highest performing questions and record those in the analysis sheet. I can then also scroll down and look at this view that this tells me what answer students selected. So question 4, which was one of the lower performing questions, I see that 34 of the students chose the right question, but 42 students chose question B, 18 students chose question C, and 22 students chose question D. And that's just really interesting. I'm very curious to know why students chose B over A. I can click here on question 4, and that's going to pull up the actual question from the test, and I can spend some time analyzing the difference between question A and question B and why students might have chosen B as a distracting question. So after I spent some time on this report, I'm going to go back to my reflection protocol. And I'm going to identify the 3 questions with the highest student mastery, the 3 questions with the lowest student mastery, and assess what content and skills are embedded in the question, just to help me to continue to dissect what's going on inside of a question, and then ultimately ending my analysis with 2 high-level questions. Which strategies, lessons, or other aspects of your practice do you think may have contributed to these learning results? And then what implications does this data have on your planning going forward into the next quarter or the next unit? So those are the next 2 sets of analysis. And then we're going to end the data analysis looking at individual students and identifying 5 to 7 students who need additional support going forward based on these interim assessment results. So for this analysis, I'm going to need the matrix report. So I'm going to go back to Illuminate. I'm going to go back in my browser. I'm going to go back up to the top where it says reports. And I'm going to choose the matrix report. Click on that link. And I'm not going to use any filters for now. I'm going to click View in Browser. My report is being generated. And this is going to give me an overview of all the students that I teach. And I can look at this matrix in 2 different ways. I can look at the row and see how individual students did and which questions they missed, which questions they got right, and what their overall mastery is. And then I can look in the column to see how students did on individual questions. So I want to choose 5 to 7 students that stand out to me. as struggling on the interim assessment and identify the 5 to 7 students, and then thinking forward, considering the students listed above and their current level of mastery, what in-class supports would these students benefit from going forward into quarter 2. And I'm going to close out this interim assessment process by submitting some names to the student support coordinators for our upcoming Students to Hold Close PD, based on a survey, an email that Emma sent out earlier this week, just looking for students that we want to talk about and hold close to us at next week's PD. So if anyone stood out to you that you're interested in sharing with Emma and Danielle, take a moment to complete that survey. So thank you so much for taking the time to really reflect on your data, reflect on your practice, reflect on what went well, and reflect on what you want to change as you think about moving forward into quarter 2. If you need any help whatsoever, whether it's accessing Illuminate or making sense of your data or thinking about your practice, please know that Holly and I will be in the Atrium during PD, and you're welcome to come find us there for individual support. And your coach is also available throughout this process and going forward to help you reflect on your interim assessment data. Thank you so much, and have a good day.